Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Whitfield Report. I am your host, Sam Whitfield, broadcasting live from NGC1 here in South Florida, and I want to thank you very much for tuning in to the show tonight, wherever you may be and whenever you may be watching, if you're watching on the podcast. Later on, or if you're listening, I should say, to the podcast or watching this in archive. I don't know how else to put it, folks. Anyway, contact info as usual. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @70_NGC. Follow me on Gab at Sam Whitfield. Facebook.com/Whitfield Report, and of course, thesamwhitfield.com for all my information. I need to update the website, by the way. I really need to do that. It's been forever. Anyway, folks, how are you? It's been a while. At least it feels like it. Obviously, I didn't do a Thursday show because it was Thanksgiving. But anyway, did everyone have a good Thanksgiving? I certainly hope so. I hope for your sakes it was as good as mine. Believe it or not, folks, I managed to stay away from politics this Thanksgiving. Our entire family did, as a matter of fact. Part of that is because mostly everyone at the table shares the same political views, although I think there were maybe one or two people who disagreed with us politically, but I'm not sure. Long story short, it just didn't come up, and it was very enjoyable, and I know it's harder for some people to avoid politics at Thanksgiving than others. I, for one, am almost never the instigator, at least not in recent years. Obviously, people know that I do this podcast. And so, they'll ask me my opinion on things on Thanksgiving, and I'll just tell them, I'm off today. I'm not doing the show. Tune into the show or, download or whatever you do. And, I have 70 plus episodes of this podcast, and I have about 300 to 500 more if you go back to the Whitfield analysis. I mean, I've got content out the wazoo. So, I just always tell people, if you need to know my political opinion on something, if you're that desperate to know what my views on things are during Thanksgiving, download my podcast. It's as simple as that. So, and then of course we had Black Friday, which, honestly, I've never been a big Black Friday person, folks. I mean, I get that there are all these deals and discounts going on and whatnot, but as far as stores goes, I could never get up at like 3 a.m. in the morning, or, God, I think it's earlier now. I think some of these stores open at like 1 a.m. in the morning. I have trouble getting my ass out of bed at 9 in the morning on a weekend. Never mind getting myself out of bed at 1 in the morning to go shopping. So, in fact, I remember a few years ago, back before everyone started shopping on Amazon, people were on Facebook talking, I went out there and I did Black Friday, and I'm like, good for you. I stayed home and literally slept in and then did my shopping on Amazon. So, I think people are catching on to online shopping now, but geez, there are still some crazy Black Friday events happening, and it never ceases to amaze me. We always have a story of Black Friday tragedies happening, and they always happen either in Florida or some other part of the South, because, well, that's just how insane this state is. So, quite literally, the state is insane. In fact, a headline from Fox News, one person dead after domestic dispute in Florida Walmart turns violent. One person, yes, folks, you read that right. So, another fuck up in Florida. One person is dead and another is in custody after a domestic dispute between a male and female turned violent inside a Florida Walmart on Saturday, authorities say. Okay, so this wasn't quite Black Friday, but when I googled Black Friday, this was one of the first things that came up. Ocala police said that a domestic argument, quote-unquote, between a male and female began in the garden center on East Silver Springs Boulevard about 2:30 p.m. According to the police, the pair moved inside the Walmart where the female began to scream for help. Store employees attempted to intervene and call 911 without success. Police say the male suspect shot the woman, killing her. The suspect fled the scene but was later captured by authorities. They have so far only identified him as a black male, age 55. Yeah. What Ocala police said on Twitter that he suffered a self-inflicted gunshot wound, but is quote-unquote alive and being transported to an area hospital. The victim has yet to be identified as police attempt to contact her kin. So, they don't really say whether that this is Black Friday related, but amazingly enough, this came up in my search when I Googled Black Friday. So, I had to bash on Fox, but that's misleading. But, at the same time, I can't really say I'm surprised because it's Ocala, and I bet it was something stupid like a 40-inch flat screen. And as far as the guy who suffered an inflicted gunshot wound, we know what he was trying to do, so why not just let him commit suicide like he wants to, right? I mean, I'm sure that there was someone suffering a heart attack or something more legit who could have used that ambulance. Oh, Sam, that's a little harsh there. Yeah, I said it. Why should the cops, and the paramedics end up saving a dirtbag who kills a woman, presumably a wife or girlfriend, and then attempts to kill themselves. Fighting over a 20-pack of do-rags? What, Josh? That's racist. No, just kidding. You're probably right. It might have been over do-rags. It was probably over like a flat screen TV or something stupid. It was probably something that they couldn't afford either. Although, somehow the guy got a hold of, guns and ammo, which, might not be exactly cheap, but they're not exactly expensive either. So, touche on that. It's just ridiculous. Anywho, I did see a few videos of Walmart brawls. Those are hilarious. I actually just saw one on NBC News, so let me see if I can find it again. It wouldn't let me download it. Walmart Black Friday. Brawl. Yeah, hopefully YouTube doesn't. Okay, yeah, so here we go. There is no shortage of, there's no shortage of stores over this. Apparently, California. Well, California and Palmdale, which, I don't know, Palmdale is part of California, so never mind. But yeah, it is California, which is kind of surprising. I'm almost curious to see what this does. Okay, reading this off the cuff. It was a really crazy scene. Dozens brawl at Palmdale Walmart over Black Friday, pre-Black Friday deal. Los Angeles County Sheriff's Deputy Anna Stevens pulled up to a Walmart in Palmdale on Thursday night and came upon a pre-Black Friday scene she had heard about before, but had never experienced at the megastore. Hordes of shoppers were shouting in each other's faces in the parking lot, and a crowd of more than 100 people gathered around them with their phones fixed on the confrontation. Stebbins and about 7 other deputies, the Palmdale station's entire Thanksgiving evening shift by her estimate, stepped out of their patrol cars and tried to break up the fracas. It was a really crazy scene, she said. Read the full story on LATimes.com. Okay? I guess I don't really want to do that, but... Okay, it's the same story. She spoke with employees working the Doorbuster event who told her they didn't know whether the warring factions were yelling over a specific item or if the fight was about something else. Though no injuries were reported, the Palmdale scene was the latest chapter from the darker side of America's Thanksgiving tradition. Okay, now folks, do you see why I do all this on Amazon now or online stores just in general? I am being partially funny, but I'm also being partially serious. This shit is ridiculous. At least 11 people have died due to Black Friday-related injuries throughout the U.S. since 2006, including a Long Island Walmart employee who was trampled by a mob of shoppers in 2008. The chaos has become so common during the sales that even the Occupational Safety and Health Administration has issued safety guidelines for stores to protect employees. The scuffle at the Palmdale Walmart began inside the store around the... Oh. Yeah, I know, Amazon. Jeez, just because I endorsed you doesn't mean I need a pop-up ad. I've already spent my money with you guys for Black Friday, so thank you very much. As I was saying, the scuffle at the Palmdale Walmart began inside the store around 6:30 p.m., authorities said. Store employees told deputies they initially thought they calmed the melee, but that it only moved outside. One of the people in the fight was said to have had a gun, Stebbins said, but deputies found no weapon at the scene. No arrests were made, she said. Emotions were high last night, she said, but they didn't tell us what started it. They were just too angry. Over what? Over television? As Josh said, probably. Stebbins said it seemed like the fight was between two families who kept calling reinforcements to join them in the lot. You know what this reminds me of? This reminds me of the news of the news station battle from Anchorman, from the first Anchorman. That's what I'm picturing right now. Completely. Quote, I've been to a Walmart on Black Friday. I know they set up the store in a certain way. They move things around, she said. She being the cop, I guess. They put certain items that are doorbusters, like a TV in the grocery area. They try to make it as calm as possible. Well, that's your problem right there. Walmart. The people who are hungry are going to the grocery aisle and they're getting TVs. No wonder they're going to be pissed. All joking aside, though. Authorities temporarily closed one entrance to the Walmart, but the stores remained open, Stebbins said. In California, several people have died and many others have been injured during or following Black Friday sales. Yeah, like the store we just read. 2 women came to blows at Palm Desert Toys R Us store in 2008, prompting the men they were with to also start arguing. The younger of the two lifted up a shirt and flashed a handgun, pulling the grip from his baggy pants and pocket. So we already know what ethnicity they were from. We already know what ethnicity they were. If they had guns in their waist pocket and were brandishing firearms, yeah, we know, okay? Okay. The other man yanked out his own handgun and started chasing him down the aisle and firing, witnesses said. Both men were killed. Oh, I really shouldn't laugh at this, folks, but you've got to laugh at just how pathetic this is. The fact that the fact that people actually started to like it. I bet it was a gang shooting, too. Okay. Let's see. A man from San Bruno was charged with 2 counts of vehicular manslaughter in 2013 after a Black Friday rollover crash killed 2 of his daughters, including a CHP officer. Authorities said he had been driving on 3 hours of sleep. Good God, folks. I swear to God, I'm not a psycho. I don't find the fact that people have died amusing. I find the fact that I don't find the fact that people have died amusing. I find the fact that people have died over stupid shit like this darkly amusing. Okay. Retailers strive to maintain order on some of the year's busiest days, and Walmart is no stranger to the chaos. In 2011, a Porter Ranch store pepper sprayed several customers in what authorities described as a shopping rage incident. Folks, this is the LA Times, and yet it's reading like a story from The Onion. Okay. In recent years, Walmart has worked with crowd management experts to develop Black Friday plans on the store level. Each location has spaced out its sale products to smooth traffic flow. Walmart also has a mobile app that allows shoppers to see a store's layout to help them navigate. Oh yeah, like that'll help. Like that'll help things. You've got families that just go and pack and go shop. Stebbins, the deputy, said. Something happens and the whole family jumped in, and that's what happened last night. That was quite the scene to see. So yeah, folks. In other words, I am right. It literally did turn into like a gang incident. Maybe not the same way that we traditionally think of it, but you know, when you've got the whole entire family going out into Walmart to brawl over TV sets, that is some fucking Mad Max shit right there. So, you know, what I want to know is why does the name Black Friday in 2018 still exist, right? Black Friday, that name's kind of racist, as they say. So, you know, I joke, and that is the title of this episode, that Black Friday is racist. I bet some social justice warrior is going to watch this episode and think, you know, Sam does have a good point. Black Friday does sound inherently racist. And then they're going to write like a 1,500-page essay on the origins of Black Friday and the patriarchal meaning, and you know how bad it is because of capitalism, and how that's a whole bad thing, and how we need to get rid of Black Friday, you know, because it's a symbol of oppression, and you know, they'll write a whole essay on it. It'll get published, and you know, then the outrage mob will go crazy, and then you know, retailers everywhere will have to acquiesce. Because most companies are pussies these days. So, yeah. Yeah, I think Josh hit the nail on the head. Well, I can guarantee they weren't fighting over work boots or Father's Day card. yeah, like I said, I almost went out. I could have gone out for Black Friday, but I didn't. The thing of it is, I don't really need anything that badly. Maybe I'll get something on Friday number. Oh no, Black Friday is like this. It's like Jewish Christmas. They never get rid of it. What? Joey, that is anti-Semitic. No, I'm kidding. Well, I mean, see that's the thing though, because Jews are not really an oppressed class, according to social justice warriors. Jews do quite well for themselves. You know, I mean, I know that's a bit of a stereotype, and I mean that as a compliment. But yeah, you know, Jews actually do pretty well for themselves, and you know, so does corporate America. So, you know, they don't really fit the social justice curb anymore. So it'll be interesting. You know, Asians do extremely well, and they're getting the wrath of the social justice warriors now too. So, you know, what can I say about Black Friday? It's insane. It's insane, and you know, I think it's ridiculous that people go and get into fights over stupid stuff like that. But then again, it does happen in areas like South Florida and Palmdale, California, which I guess from what I'm hearing from I'm reading Josh say, it does you know, happen a lot in that area. So with that in mind, folks, let's do something completely random, shall we? And by completely random, how random? What do I mean? What do I mean by random? I mean this type of random. Oh yeah.
Everybody!
Some of you will know what this is.
The love jazz! You love jazz! You are the 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 love jazz!
This is the battle cry of people fighting in Walmart on Black Friday.
You are the love jazz! You are the love jazz! You are law, Lord, you Lord. You are the powerhouse law. Very, very tasty, you are law. You are the love jazz. You are the love jazz.
Yeah, they needed this guy to come in and do Black Friday. Alright, I won't play the whole video, but yeah, I found that a few years ago. Nick DiPaolo used to play that on his podcast years ago, and I had it on the computer. I'll break that I'll break that out every once in a while just for something completely random. But yeah, is that Iranian Randy Savage? Well, I think that's Indian Jesus. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I think that's like the equivalent of Indian Jesus. This guy, I looked him on his channel. He's like one of these. I don't know what the it's not imam because that's Muslim, but he's some Hindu spirit guide. And I've read that he's actually a cult leader, and like that concert is that's like a thing he does at like his concert, and like the comments on YouTube, at least those that are in English, they're if you think Blow and Benjamin ran a cult, Blowin's cult has nothing on this guy. I mean, he can play piano, sure, but can he get a crowd to literally start raving on command simply by saying "Love Charger"? So oddly enough, his goat made the same exact noises the night before. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. So on a little bit more of a serious note, not that we haven't been talking about some serious stuff like Black Friday, gang violence and whatnot. On a more serious note, some people have asked me my opinion on the whole fallout between Jordan Peterson and basically everyone on the right regarding Jordan's tweet on Kavanaugh. People have actually asked me about that. I meant to get to this on the Thursday audio podcast, but obviously with Thursday being Thanksgiving, I didn't get around to it. So I'll just give my brief opinion on this, and then I actually want to play a video because Peterson himself responded to kind of the fallout. Here's my whole take. The only people who are really disappointed by what Peterson said about Kavanaugh, I find, are the people who became part of his whole cult, so to speak, with the lobster thing. I've been pretty upfront about this. I'm not a Jordan Peterson fan per se. I don't dislike Peterson, but I just never got why he is supposedly so instrumental in changing people's lives. I suppose if his books help you, that's good. I'm glad. And whatever helps people, whatever helps you be a better person, good on you. But I will say that a lot of his stuff, at least what I've noticed, and people always get a little PO'd when I say this, a lot of his material for 12 Rules for Life, at least what I've read, seems to kind of be loosely based off of this book, which I've recommended to many people. Happiness is a serious problem with Dennis Prager. And I seriously recommend that you check this book out. If you really want a good help self book. I've had this for years now. It basically talks about how happiness at the end of the day is the individual's choice, and about how outside forces can affect certain events in your life. Ultimately, it's up to you at the end of the day to be in charge of one's own happiness. So, you're welcome. I kind of just spoiled the whole premise of this book for you. But go ahead and check it out. It's interesting, though, because when I recommended this, I was in a Facebook group, and when I posted this, that I recommend this book, a lot of the same people who originally were praising Jordan Peterson and you-know-who were calling Prager a hack and an intellectual bottom feeder. Which is ironic considering that, like I said, it seems to me, I don't want to say that Peterson stole the premise of this book, but I mean it's loosely the same thing. The cover from what I've seen even looks the same somewhat. So that's my whole opinion on the Peterson thing. In regards to Kavanaugh, I'm not really surprised that he that he became a bit partisan. His explanation for why he tweeted what he tweeted is pretty interesting, though, and I do want to play a little clip of it for you. Not saying I completely agree with what he's saying, but I do think he kind of reveals the truth about himself here, and it's interesting to watch, no doubt. So here's a clip of Peterson talking about why he, kind of the blowback he's received regarding his tweet about Kavanaugh. Roll the clip.
You caught some Twitter flack for your comment on Brett Kavanaugh. Care to address your comment and the blowback? Well, I addressed the comment because I wrote a blog post, and so that was probably the right way not only to address it, but that would have been the right way to handle it to begin with. So I'll address it. Sure, I'll address it. And I'll address the blowback as well. Look, just because you have an idea doesn't mean that it's the only idea. And just because you have an idea doesn't mean it's right. And so, it's weird for me in some sense to...
Okay, so is this him admitting that he's wrong? Or is he just stating things in general? I agree with him so far that just because you have an idea, it doesn't mean that everyone else has to have the same idea. Oh yeah, Jolly, it's not just you that hears the Kermit voice. He's actually parodied himself in regards to that. He actually has a Kermit the Frog puppet in his office. I will say this, he doesn't take himself too seriously, despite the fact that he always looks super depressed and on the verge of suicide. I don't think I've ever seen Peterson smile once.
Engage in public discourse, especially politically, because You see, I've been a researcher for a very long period of time. And so most of the people that I've talked to about serious ideas, most of them, many of them.
Okay, I'm going to scroll back real quick because what you just said is deeply important. Here's the, let's go again.
It's weird for me in some sense to engage in public discourse, especially politically, because you see, I've been a researcher for a very long period of time. And so most of the people that I've talked to about serious ideas, most of them, many of them, have been researchers, graduate students, for example. And when you're talking about a problem, whatever it might be, if you're research oriented, what you do is kind of what you do if you're a therapist, the way I laid out advice for a young therapist earlier. It's like, okay, well, what does everybody think the problem is? And so you assume that you don't know. It's like, okay, well, we have a big discussion about what everybody thinks the problem is. Well, what do you think the real problem is? Like, what's the real problem with the Kavanaugh situation?
Okay, before I get into that, I want to point something out here. Because, did you guys catch that? He has said that he was not engaged in the world of politics. He's a researcher. Now, that's very important because for the last year or so, ever since he got brought to the forefront for speaking up against Canada's dumbass PC censorship laws, which again, I think we all should applaud him. I absolutely think that. And he's right to stand for that, to stand up against that. But I think people often forget that at the end of the day, he is a professor and a clinical psychologist and not a political figure or a media personality like I am, or Milo is, or Cernovich, or take your pick. He doesn't exactly come from he doesn't necessarily come from the same background of political commentary that a lot of us did, or political activism. So when people were getting pissed off at him for not being a political commentator, or for somehow somehow he betrayed our movement or left us, I'm always kind of baffled, because it's like, well, he never was a big political figure to begin with. I don't think that was his intention. I'm not necessarily letting him off the hook here. I'll just kind of what he's going to explain for why he tweeted what he tweeted, but I just want to get that notion out of the way, that he was a political figure to begin with. That's what my face looks like during taking a Duke in the morning, watching SJW cringe videos. Yeah, that's what my face looked like reading all those bear tweets from way back in June, when I was just trying to have a reasonable conversation and everyone was saying F you to me and whatnot. Anywho.
Well, one might be, Kavanaugh was accused of sexual impropriety when he was a high school student. And because of that, his suitability for the Supreme Court is in question. Maybe that's the problem. Yeah, maybe. And maybe that's not the problem. Who the hell knows what the problem is? So here's a bunch of possibilities. we haven't had a reasonable discussion about what constitutes an acceptable statute of limitations with regards to accusations of misbehavior between individuals. It's like, well, can you accuse someone reasonably 5 years later, 10 years later, 15 years later, 40 years later? Like, is there a limit? Do you have a moral obligation, if you're going to accuse someone or even seek justice, to do that within a reasonable period of time? Who knows? We don't. So that's a problem. What exactly are the rules that govern the conduct of men and women when they're young, when they're drinking? Are we going to have that conversation? No, we're not going to have that conversation either, because no one wants to think of that through, and they especially don't want to think it through with regards to the complicating additional feature of alcohol. The thing about alcohol is the reason that people drink is so that they can act stupidly and have fun. Now, the problem with acting stupidly and having fun when you're...
Okay, that's the first point I'll disagree with Peterson on. A lot of people I know don't just drink to get drunk and act stupid. I know some people that do that, but there are other people like me who drink beer because, as the great Justice Kavanaugh has said himself, I like beer. I will always like beer. I forget the whole quote, but Peterson essentially makes the broad sweeping statement that people drink because they want to act stupid. Nah. Okay. I think that's applicable for maybe some people, but not for all of us. And this is my big problem with him. Is that he makes the broad generalization. Okay. And yeah, Josh, you're right. Everyone I knew growing up drank to get drunk, literally. But I'm just saying that's you and Brian. And look, I know people who drink to get drunk too, but I also know people who drink just in celebratory times and whatnot too. Anywho,
is that it makes you anxious, and so you don't do it. But alcohol, especially for people for whom alcohol is a good drug, ramps up the excitement of impulsivity and quells the anxiety. And so people often drink, because they want to go out and be stupid and have fun. And look, I understand that. There's something to be said for stupid fun. But one of the things that also needs to be said about it is it's bloody well dangerous. And so we don't want to have that conversation. We don't have that conversation on campuses. We talk about the rape crisis. Nobody talks about the alcohol sexual assault crisis. If men and women didn't drink together, there'd be virtually no sexual assault. And in fact, if people didn't drink at all, there'd be almost no violent crime, because alcohol contributes to violent crime in a manner that you can hardly imagine. But 50% of people...
Okay, this was another argument that Peterson brought up that I disagree with completely. He's bringing up an argument literally from 100 years ago. That alcohol contributes to violence, therefore we must get rid of it. Jordan, we tried that. It was called prohibition. And violent crime skyrocketed. Remember all those figures like Al Capone and Nucky Thompson and Big Jim Colosimo? Basically, do you remember the heyday of organized crime in America? Well, obviously Peterson might not, because he's Canadian, and I don't know if American organized crime really ever got studied in Canada. I don't know. if that's the case. But, you know, we tried prohibition and it didn't stop violence at all. In fact, it got way worse. And, you know, I mean, I suppose this is the argument. Try and ban something and people find a way to get it. So, eventually the government did the right thing and said, this is stupid to ban, you know, to prohibit alcohol. Organized crime is on the rise. They broke, you know, they lifted the I can't remember what the amendment was to ban alcohol, but they basically got rid of prohibition, and organized crime from basically the 30s, from basically like the 30s to the early 50s was pretty much broken. And now, of course, we can go into the whole thing with JFK and the Teamsters and organized crime in the 60s and 70s. And I love studying gangster history and all that, but that's another topic for another time.
Who are murdered are drunk, and about 50% of the people who do the murdering are drunk. And that's probably an underestimate because the stats aren't kept that well. And it also depends on how you define drunk. So that could also be a problem. Well, the liberals, left types, let's call them the left-leaning progressive types, don't want a conservative on the Supreme Court. The left-leaning types aren't happy that Trump won the election. The conservatives want to rush a candidate onto the Supreme Court come hell or high water because of the November election. Then there's another problem. Well, is this about Kavanaugh at all, or is this about Roe and Wade and about abortion? Well, who knows, right? It's about all those things. So it's an unbelievably complicated, god-awful situation. And so Eric Weinstein and Brett Weinstein were tweeting about this, and it was late at night.
Okay, what exactly is he referring to here? I think he's referring to what is the whole Kavanaugh controversy about. The whole Kavanaugh controversy, Jordan, in case you weren't paying attention, is that some random chick from his past, and that's literally what she is. She's literally some random chick from his past that no one knew about. And, and she accused him of sexual assault and rape with zero evidence. That's what this whole thing is about. And, I mean, yeah, there are some things. I mean, Kavanaugh certainly is pro-life. But, I mean, Roe v. Wade was a very small part of this. Other than the fact that Blasey Ford has gotten money from Planned Parenthood and other abortion pill manufacturers. She's a lobbyist for some of them. But that's only half of the story here.
And Eric said, as far as I can tell, either way, this is not going to end well. And I thought, he said, is there an alternative? Is there a way out of that? And I thought, that's an interesting question. What might be a way out of that? And I thought, well, Kavanaugh's in a rough position because he can't withdraw, obviously, and perhaps shouldn't, without his reputation being shattered. And if he doesn't get nominated, same thing. His life is basically over. So, but on the other hand, he's tangled up in a scandal that's of sufficient murk and mud so that it isn't self-evident that he can serve as a Supreme Court justice without having every single one of his decisions, especially in contentious cases, produce a tremendous amount of social upheaval over the next 2 or 3 decades. And it isn't obvious that that's a great move forward. Now, it might be fine. I mean, there's been controversy around other Supreme Court justice nominations, and that seems to have basically sorted itself out. And I already...
Okay, so Peterson is essentially contradicting himself right there again. He's saying that Kavanaugh won't be able to make a single decision without the blowback of this supposed scandal coming up every time he makes a ruling. And then he's saying it won't. Which is it, Peterson? And by the way, I think now that, I think now that everyone's found out that the whole Ford thing is a sham, I mean, even she's admitted it to a certain extent. No one is going to question his rulings based on this. Based on the whole false allegation. If they do, they're idiots. Because even she's admitted that she basically lied. And that this whole thing was a big farce to get media attention.
Just because you're thinking something through doesn't mean you're right. It's a simulation. So I thought, well, if I was in Kavanaugh's position and I felt that my candidacy had been compromised, perhaps through no fault of my own, I am not saying anything about his innocence or guilt, but that my candidacy had been compromised by this interminable and ugly scandal, and that meant that my tenure on the Supreme Court might be marked by culturally divisive controversy in the long run. Maybe it would be better for me to be nominated to say, look, it's too murky, it's too muddy, and I don't think the country is best served by my accepting the nomination. Then the Conservatives can nominate another candidate, get their person on the Supreme Court, so there's no necessary loss there, and perhaps we could move forward with a relative minimum of divisiveness. Now, look, in my blog, I laid out all the reasons why that isn't a good idea. Like, here, maybe if you just give me 5 seconds, I can read some of them, because I tried to make a steelman case for why my idea wasn't a good one, my idea about him withdrawing. So just give me 1 second, and I'll read all the potential objections, just so that you know that I've thought them through. So perhaps the Democrat opposition would mount a similar campaign against my putative successor. Well, that's certainly possible. I said, well, that would provide virtually unassailable evidence for the purely manipulative and political motivation of the accusers, forcing them to duplicate their strategy a second time. That would help reveal the machinations for what they were in a manner that would be virtually undeniable. Perhaps time is of the essence, and there'd be no way to place another candidate of conservative leaning on the bench before the November elections. As they say, however, act in haste, repent in leisure. Okay, and then other arguments against my position. Here they are. Oh yes, if Kavanaugh withdrew after being nominated, here's what might happen. It would be read as an admission of guilt on his part. It would embolden those who would use reputation destruction as a political maneuver. It would weaken the generally and vitally important idea of the presumption of innocence. It would indicate weakness on the part of the Republicans at a key moment prior to the November elections. It would mean that an innocent man has been successfully pilloried by a mob. It would validate the use of allegations of past behavior well past any reasonable expiry date as a weapon. It would destroy the Republican opportunity to choose a Supreme Court justice, hand the Democrats an unearned victory, embitter a large percentage of the conservative base who would regard the withdrawal as a betrayal, and last and perhaps least, violate my own personal adage, for what that's worth, of don't apologize if you haven't done anything wrong. Okay, so I understand the weakness.
Okay, so whoever wrote that argument to Peterson is absolutely right. Here's the bottom line, and I'll play the remainder of this clip here. I think Peterson's big problem here is that he's being super indecisive. That's my problem. It's not necessarily that he's betraying Kavanaugh. As I've said, I think the big mistake people make with Peterson is that I think the big mistake people make with Peterson, as I said, people assume that ever since he got involved in politics back in 2016, so wow, almost 2 years ago now actually, that he's a political figure when in fact he's not. He's a professor and a clinical psychologist. He is also revealing himself to be indecisive though, folks. And that's the big problem that people have with Peterson right now.
Of that position. I was putting it forward as a potential third alternative. Now look, it's perfectly reasonable to put things forward as alternatives. That's thinking. Now, having said that, I made some mistakes. Okay, so the first mistake was don't tweet complicated ideas in 140 characters about contentious issues in the midst of a controversy at 2 a.m. Right? Bad idea. And so one of the consequences of this for me is that I've withdrawn quite a lot over the last 3 weeks from Twitter. Twitter's a very dangerous platform, and so I'm taking a break from it while I'm reevaluating its utility. And so because I talked to my son about this before and other members of my family, and we had agreed that I wasn't going to post anything on Twitter that should be made into a blog. But the problem with Twitter is that or the problem with me, who knows where the problem is that Twitter invites and facilitates impulsive responding. And so I'm not convinced that it's necessarily a good platform for me. Of all the places that I tend to get into trouble, Twitter is sort of at the top of the list. Now,
he's not alone. And he's right on all accounts. He shouldn't have tweeted that, maybe, but he's also right that Twitter is the worst place to have a discussion on anything. And Facebook's not that. Facebook, I guess you could argue in some ways, is worse. But in Facebook, people can actually write full-blown sentences and whatnot. By the way, big shout out to Nacho, who's in the chat. Good to see you, Nacho, and apologies. Initially, I thought you were just a troll here on the channel, but it's good to know that you're actually a real person. So if I haven't acknowledged you before, welcome. So. Anyway, though, yeah, Peterson made a big mistake by tweeting that complex idea out. I think the other mistake he made, though, is he's become too indecisive with his messaging. Like he's trying to please too many people, and I think now that he's gotten into the political spectrum, it's a little too late to put that genie back in the bottle, so to speak. Believe me, I've tried to walk away from political commentary. It's not as easy as one thinks, but I can certainly understand why people are upset with him. I really can. I think we'll have to see what goes on in the future with Peterson and with others like him. It'll be interesting to see if this intellectual dark web continues to manifest or if it peters out, so to speak. Pardon the pun. Okay, and just kind of as another cleanser, let's finish off that discussion with this.
You are my love chaser. You are my love chaser. You are the love chaser. You are the love chaser. You are the love chaser.
And just like that, Brian has lost his hands.
You are lost.
Yep, still terrible. Yeah, that's the whole point, Jolly. It's completely terrible. Brian, that's right. You weren't here earlier in the show when I played this. Yeah, it's a completely random video that Nick DiPaolo used to play on his show a long time ago. Supposedly this guy is a cult leader, who he's like some Indian shaman guy or something who hypnotizes people with his music and convinces them to give him money. So yeah. So yeah. So that's interesting. One, I do want to play a few more clips. I know we're going late here, but yeah, you might need to cleanse again after hearing that. But that's hilarious. Well, cleansing is always good, right? So someone shared with me. Someone sent this hilarious mashup of Joey Diaz and Elon Musk to me earlier in the week on the Wednesday right before Thanksgiving. Someone sent this to me and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. It's gotten some views, but it's still going. So I do want to play an excerpt of this. These people who do the YouTube mashups of the Joe Rogan interviews, some of them are extremely, extremely creative. So there's one where Joey Diaz meets himself, which is hilarious. Maybe I'll play that one in a little bit. But this Elon Musk one, let's put this under things I love, so to speak. If I was going to do a Shapiro thing, this would definitely be a things I love category. So this YouTube mashup of Joey Diaz meeting Elon Musk is absolutely hilarious.
The first man to smoke marijuana never really smoked it, he inhaled it. He was a Chinese man, he was a very great man. And whenever he lit the plant, it wasn't to get high. But he would start to get high. And every time he got high, a blue bird would come to him. I'm drinking kombucha with water. Ha ha ha.
For those who are listening on the audio-only podcast, let me explain what's going on here. Joey Diaz is basically monologuing while Elon Musk is smoking a blunt, and they're conversing. It's basically a mashup of one of Joe's shows with Joey Diaz, and then the Elon Musk interview. It's hilarious. So just, if you're listening to the audio podcast, I definitely recommend you go back and watch this later. But for those of you who can watch this, you'll enjoy this. It gets better as it goes on.
Have you ever been to Disneyland?
I mostly live in LA.
You know what? Fuck California.
Go and try living in the woods by yourself for a while.
Salam alaikum.
Why are we doing this? It's crazy.
I just thought there was a civil war starting today.
I don't want to jump the gun on that.
I got pistol whipped with the gun to the head. Nothing bled, thank God, but it fucking hurt. And I looked at them like, what are you, crazy?
Elon with the
Like,
sword.
I don't know what the fuck you guys are doing.
Yeah.
The way the tire was hitting, the speeds, like how fast they were going uphill.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever.
The first 30 minutes of that, like I thought I was going to die.
I try to convince people to slow down.
It's just mind-blowing.
I wouldn't recommend it, but...
Even in Turkey, we lose our fucking minds. My friend who I kidnapped showed up.
That would cause a lot of trouble.
He was the king of Me Too.
This is also true of Facebook. I saw that movie Chimpanzee. I thought it was going to be like some Disney thing. I was like, holy cow.
Bro, that movie's like a porn.
Damn, these chimps are mean.
2 hours on the monkey bars.
And they kill each other. And they torture each other. That's pretty bad. They hunt monkeys.
That's like a light porn.
Anyway, I don't want to sound like things are too dark. The universe as we know it will dissipate into a fine mist of cold nothingness.
What the fuck is this?
I'm not that good looking and I'm not happy. So I must suck.
Bro.
I think best case scenario, we effectively merge with AI.
Get the fuck up before I fucking kill you, you dumb motherfucker.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. That would cause a lot of trouble.
Sleep in the garage, no dinner!
This is not a wise move. You should not do this. It's very dangerous.
Why? Fuck you, motherfucker.
I wouldn't recommend it, and that would be probably a safer way to go about things.
Go home, you little guinea fuck.
You know, it's just a hole in the ground.
Go home, you little guinea fuck. I know I could rock and roll. I could throw down on
This
7
dialogue
straight.
has one of the...
But it's got to be 7 straight. No, get up to P 2 times, because once you're 50, you could be up and down.
I'm not sure what you mean by that.
Dog, I've been a specialist on sleep since day one.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom would wake me up every night at 3:30 in the morning with a Cuban sandwich.
You know, there need to be things that make you look forward to waking up in the morning. You wake up in the morning, you look forward to the day, you look forward to the future.
I did cocaine for 30 years.
It's probably not wise.
I've been in a fucking other dimension since last week, and I don't give a fuck.
It's not necessarily bad. It's just...
How many people are going to try to assassinate Kevin Hart with weapons?
I tried for years.
He's just a creepy fucking dude.
That's true.
That motherfucker
Oh, they're
Stone Cold
showing
raped
Kevin
him.
Hart.
He became friends with this dude. They had a cat, and they started raping him.
Sort of primal drives. There will be an outcry. There will be an investigation. Years will pass. There will be some sort of insight committee. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years.
I was polishing the fucking the musket.
This is very exciting.
Every day I sneak up on him and put a gun to his side. And I go, what's going on? And I pat him in the back. And he giggles and shit.
Oh,
'Cause
genius.
I'm tiptoeing up to him, and he don't even hear me in bushes or nothing like that. That's how good I am. And I don't even know. I've never trained in Quantico. And this guy ended up dying of AIDS in real life. Bad.
if your biological self dies, you could probably just upload into a new unit.
Are you fucking nuts?
Yeah, pretty much.
Go, what the fuck am I doing sitting here?
Joe,
was
he
futile.
admits he's
What am I
nuts.
doing?
Well, that is hilarious. There's another one where Joey meets Joey, and it's hilarious. The really famous one that's gotten a viral video play at this point is the Joe Rogan meets Rojogan. I didn't save that one, but maybe I'll play it on Thursday's podcast or something. I don't know. But you know what? I will go ahead. I won't play the Rojogan one, but I'll definitely play the one where Joey meets Joey, because you know it's a Saturday. We didn't do a show on Thursday, so I'm gonna go a little long tonight. I mean I've already gone an hour over, but I'll go I'll go a little long tonight just for you guys. So all right. This is Joey Diaz meets Doey Joaz, or something like that. By the way, Nacho, glad to hear that you're doing well, dude. I have been reading the comments in the chat. It's interesting ever since I've started YouTubing, I kind of keep one eye on the screen and then one eye on the chat. Even if I don't always comment directly on the chat, I'm always kind of reading it off side, so to speak. But I am certainly glad that things are going well for you. So good for you, man. That's all I have to say. And best of luck to you on your future endeavors. Okay, let's see. I know I put this. Okay, here it is. This is another hilarious one. Joey Diaz meets Doey Giaz. That's the title of this clip. So, this is equal hilarious, I would say.
So wait a second, Joey. With all those degenerate motherfuckers in the tri-state area, what you're telling me is, if you got arrested for gambling in New York City in the 70s and 80s, you got a ticket. Listen, I got caught without a license 10, 15 years ago in L.A. First time ever. I was talking on the phone. I got pulled over. Guy goes, "Where's your license?" It didn't work that day. I went down to L.A. County. I stood in front of a judge. Bop, bop, bop. The guy looked me straight in the face. He goes, "You could pay $200 and come back with your license. Well, give me $550 and I don't want to see you again." Knock it the fuck off.
It's the two Joeys.
So I keep thinking about
to each other.
93. I lived in a fucking room with my buddy who did heroin. I had one white shirt. I would sell cars on 11th Avenue down there, New York City. I had one white shirt, and I would wear the same shirt every day. I would have to come home, jump in the shower, and I would wash my shirt in the shower, and I would hang it up, and then I would iron it every fucking day. That's how I wanted it. But you ever see like a nice looking couple now? Like he's 26 and she's 22, and they're both beautiful. She got perky little tits. She's banging. Her legs are suntan. And you're thinking to yourself, this little young savage must be going home tearing that pussy. I mean, you think back to your little 26-year-old in the afternoons where you take him home and rub him down and give him a good stab and bang it. You come like 3 times, the whole fucking thing. That never happens no more. Banging. Like at this age, you look at that and go, that'll never happen. You ever think of that? I got like 2 8-balls in my pocket. Get dressed. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Not as funny if you're listening to the audio podcast, so I'll definitely link all of these in the in the show description on Apple Podcasts and whatnot. But anyway, folks, that'll do it for tonight's show. I managed to actually cover everything, and it only took me 1 hour and 20 minutes to do so. So yeah, we did run a little over on time, but I want to thank all of you who decided to tune in tonight and show up in the chat, and also for those of you who were just lurking in the background, such as Mr. Morgan. What's going on, brother? Welcome to the end of the party, so to speak. So no, folks, I want to thank you for watching. If you like the show, please recommend the podcast / channel to your friends. Be sure to rate, comment, and subscribe on iTunes, and also like, comment, subscribe on YouTube as well. So many platforms to keep track of, folks. From all of us here at NGC Studios, have a good evening, and God bless and God save this great nation.